What made you start throwing baseballs again?
Oh man, what made me start throwing baseballs? What a way to start this! You didn't even give me a chance to introduce you, Tony.
Oh, I didn't know. I thought we just said we're just going to dive into
No,
conversation. So
we're
I
gonna
thought
dive
I'd
right
ask
in.
a great question.
They're gonna learn about you on through the questions. But yeah, what got me into throwing a baseball again? Um, that's a good question. I have a buddy of mine, Armando, who's pretty much, for anyone who doesn't know, I played professional baseball in 2000, I don't know, 12 and 13, coming up like 11, 12 years ago, and played 2 years and then tore my elbow, had Tommy John surgery. I was out for a year and then I recovered. And at that point, I was like, I'm done with baseball. It's not going to happen. Like, some people just have to have that self awareness. A lot of people don't. I had the self awareness to know this wasn't going to go where I wanted it to go. So let me just start moving on with the next phase of my life, right? And get a professional career. And so this guy Armando, I'm originally from New York. He's from New Jersey. We followed each other on Facebook and maybe Instagram back then. I don't even know if Instagram was around back then, but he's been following me for a while, and he has a travel baseball team that he runs, an adult men's travel team. They do tournaments, they play regular season, all that. And one of my teammates, when I played professional baseball, is also from Jersey. And so I guess he played in a couple of tournaments with them, and he had been following me. So he was like, shit, we're in men's league, playing tournaments and stuff. We might have 2 professional players on our team. We're going to kick everyone's ass, win these tournaments. But so he's been trying to recruit me for damn near 10 years now to play in his tournaments. I've just never done. And he finally just reached out again. And I was like, you know what? You guys are going to be in Florida. It's close enough. I haven't played in a while. I'm getting my ass back in shape. Not sports shape, but just in general.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? I could use a weekend away from the kids. Let's do it.
Let's go. I like it.
Let's do it. So I did it. I went out. I threw 3 innings. I gave up 2 runs, 1 earned. I had a couple strikeouts. I felt absolutely terrible after the second pitch. Like my shoulder just felt like it was going to fall off because I haven't been really training. I mean, I haven't thrown off a baseball mound in 10 years.
Oh, wow.
So it was like me, like just really just going out there and just for the first time in a very long time. But it was fun. It was nice to be out there. I paid for it. My body paid for it over the next few days, but my shoulder's still killing me. I can't sleep comfortably, but yeah, it was cool. That's
man.
Really what it was. It wasn't anything deeper than that.
No worries. I'm a big baseball fan. I love baseball, so
Yeah, we spoke about that. I know you have some stories from Yankees players, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's an old history story about Wally Pipp that if you're a baseball historian, you probably already know it, but that's a good story. He was the guy that Lou Gehrig eventually replaced. So
yeah. I remember you and I a couple years back talking about that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, thank you for hopping on the episode. This is the 6th episode of the Extra Innings podcast, and I wanted to bring people on, like not everyone that has I've put out a link for people to kind of request to be on it. You're one of them. I was going to reach out to you regardless because I think you're probably one of the most interesting people in the industry that I've came across. So I was really excited to see you actually fill it out because I was going to reach out to you regardless. Obviously, we've known each other for a few years now, but I want to learn a little bit more kind of about you. I know that in the insurance space, like we're all in this industry together, right? Most of our network and our audience is from this industry.
Mm-hmm.
And you're all over the place. Like you're hosting conferences, you're doing podcasts. You've got one in the syndicate now with Joe. I mean, you guys have had it, but everyone's pretty familiar with Tony Merwin, right?
Okay.
But what people don't know is how did Tony Merwin become Tony Merwin?
I was born like everybody else.
No, I know that, but like, how did you get to where you are today? Like, where were you born and raised? What were you into? Like, what led you into insurance? I would like to personally know that. I'm sure there's plenty of people out there also who would also like to know like a little bit more about you. So I'd like to kind of to start there and just like learn a little bit more about like your upbringing and kind of learn like what made Tony Merwin who he is today. Because I think you're a very interesting character.
Yeah, well, I think that's a compliment, I guess.
No, it's absolutely a compliment. It's absolutely a compliment.
I grew up in Houston, actually Southeast Houston. I I'm a little older than some folks. I know one day my hair will turn gray and it'll be more obvious, but
Listen, man,
um,
I'm
I
35. My whole sides are gray.
right. So I'm a Generation X kid. I was definitely one of those latchkey kids growing up in Houston, or in Southeast Houston. It was Pasadena, actually, Pasadena, Texas.
Okay.
Which, if you've ever seen Urban Cowboy with John Travolta and Debbie Winger,
I haven't.
about famous country western bar called Gillies.
Okay.
I grew up right down the street from Gillies. Like, I grew up right down the street from exactly where that whole movie is basically set and transpired. So it was very much a country western kind of town. It was an oil town in regards to chemical and oil plants. So
Okay.
that's why we were there, because my dad worked in oil and gas. He
Okay.
was an instrumentation designer, so he designs all the instruments that measure pressure and flow and temperature and all that stuff. So obviously we had to live in Houston so he could be close to that type of work. So I grew up in Southeast Houston, Pasadena. I was a latchkey kid, right? So I learned independence at a really young age because forced to, right? Both parents worked. I literally had a string around my neck that had a key on it. And I walked down the street about a half a mile every day to my bus, rode the bus to school, dropped me off. I'd walk back home, let myself in, and I'd spend the next 2 hours by myself in the house,
It's a different
tending to
game
my own
time.
devices until mom and dad finally came home.
It's a
And
different
sometimes I
game.
wouldn't help. So I might be at my buddy's house, whatever, riding my bicycle around the neighborhood. Right. Yeah. But different time, totally different time. And looking back on it, I realize how impressionable being raised like that is to me, or was to me, to help me understand my behavior now, because I absolutely love independence. Don't like people telling me what to do. I don't like people that can't keep up their own weight, right? Because that's how I grew up. I grew up on my own, just kind of my
Yeah.
own freedom. So if you couldn't hang with me, if you couldn't move at the pace I was moving, like you were slowing me down,
Yeah.
right? You were hindering me. And I'm
Yeah.
still kind of like that today. Like, I don't like to associate people that can't keep up, which is good and bad,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's a great trait. And I think that's definitely, it's reflective on the times that we grew up in, right? Because I feel like
Sure.
I kind of grew up in the same era where we did have some of that freedom and kind of also the safety of just being able to go out
Yeah.
and have fun and not have to worry about being freaking kidnapped by some creep,
Yeah.
in a pickup truck.
Yeah.
So
You had to learn to be self-reliant, because it was
absolutely.
just me. I was the only person I could rely on was myself most of the time. And at least, obviously if you're in school, then I guess you could feel like you could rely on the teachers and principals and the people that run the school. But once I got home, and then I'm there by myself for another couple hours, and that's every day, every day, every day. Like, sometimes I'm hungry and I'm like, I'm not waiting to eat, man. I got to figure out how to get some food in my belly,
Yeah.
or whatever it might, or something would happen, at the house, maybe, or an important phone call would come through and I'd have to be the man of the house. So you learn self-reliance and resilience pretty quick that way.
Yeah. Would you say so? Because I mean, when I think about you as a person, right? Like, very big personality, very well spoken, right? And I guess we'll touch a little bit on kind of your education too, because you are very, very well spoken. And I don't know how I know you were doing the speaking. What is it? Was that Grant Cardone's speaking thing?
Oh yeah, the speaking contest that Grant
Yes.
Cardone and his crew put on. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm sure we'll probably talk about that too. But growing up, what would you say kind of was like your? Did you have a big group of friends growing up? Like, because for me, I grew up in New York City. Like, on one street, you had 700 kids, so I
Right.
was always around a bunch of kids, and I still kind of look at myself as more introverted. Um, because I didn't really enjoy being in the crowds, but also growing up in New York, I was always around people. And
Right.
so I'm always interested when I talk to people who are like way more open and way more uh, extroverted, because a lot of my friends, a lot of my close friends are also extroverted.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always curious to see like what was your kind of friends group growing up, and like obviously there was a lot of self reliance with your parents working and then you having to take care of yourself, but also if you had that group around you, maybe there was also that kind of culture that helped give you that backbone or that safety net around you, where it was like, I have people I can still rely on, even if my parents are out and away.
Sure.
These are my people,
Yeah, no, absolutely. I certainly, like, on the street that I grew up on, right? there was a few other kids that were my age. So naturally we all gravitated. There was about 4 or 5, maybe 6 of us, depending on who was doing what, who wasn't grounded. It could come out and actually hang out with us or have us stuck doing homework or whatever it might be. And there was me and another guy that were like super, super tight. Like we were best pals. And we actually remained best friends from probably around, I'd say maybe 4th and 5th grade, elementary school, all the way into high school. We lived next door to each other. We grew up next to each other. We did everything together. Right. Okay. And then it was the other kids on the street. Like it was me and Jeff and then everybody else was kind of how it was. And I was definitely extroverted. So was Jeff. He was a pretty extroverted guy. So anybody that knew us are like, oh, it's Jeff and Tony. Like, we got around. We, hit other streets and people would know us. But for the most part, like on my street, there was about 5, 6 of us that were kind of hung out together and played and did whatever. You get into school and it changes a little bit. In elementary school, which is, it's weird to say that you were popular in elementary school because it's elementary school. Like what the hell the kids know? But I had a big group of friends in elementary school and I would get to invited a lot of the birthday parties and different things. And then I got to intermediate school and it was completely different. A lot of my friends that I had in elementary school didn't go to the same intermediate school as I do. They would get, depending on where they live, they get moved to a different one. So you lose touch with them. And I was, I wouldn't say outcast is the right word, but I was definitely a dork. Like when I first got to, like, I didn't understand it. Nobody liked me. I didn't get it. I was like, what do you mean? Everybody in kindergarten through 5th grade loves me. And then I get to 6th grade and they're like, who's this dork? Like I didn't fit in at all. And I really struggled in 6th and 7th grade from a social standpoint.
Socially awkward. Okay.
Yeah, I was very socially awkward. I didn't know how to be cool, right? I wasn't one of the cool kids. I didn't really know how to approach girls. Like, so it made me nervous. Like I was super, like just an awkward kid at 6th and 7th grade, which is, what is that? That's like
12 years old,
11, 12, 13, right in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And I was just starting to get a little bit athletic, but not much. Like growing up, I was not an athletic kid at all. Like I could strike out in T-ball as a kid.
Gotcha. Okay.
100%. Like I was really not athletic. And it was about 13, 14 before I started getting some true athletic skills.
Yeah. I feel like middle school is kind of that weird age where it's like kids are starting to figure out who they're becoming, not necessarily who they are, but just who they're becoming. And a lot of people get confused on which route to go. You want to try to fit in with the cool kids because who doesn't want to be the cool kid? But sometimes it just, like in your situation, like, it doesn't work to start if you're a little socially awkward.
Yeah. It wasn't until about 8th grade that I started losing social anxiety and caring less about what my peers thought about me. So I couldn't tell you even what the shift was, but I remember a change in my behavior and the way I presented myself my last year of that school period in my life versus like the first year. And I noticed I was definitely more relaxed and I wasn't as socially anxious.
Were you extroverted going into middle school?
I was to some extent. I mean, I definitely was extroverted. Absolutely. Because I grew up extroverted. And I grew up, I would say the way my household ran, right? I was kind of forced to be extroverted in order if I wanted to get any attention.
Gotcha.
Kind of thing.
Yeah. Do you think that may have been part of like what hindered you in that transition into middle school of like?
Probably so, because I would continue
that might intimidate kids at that age. You know what I mean? You have a big personality, and if you've always had that big personality, moving into a new school where you go from being the oldest to now the youngest, and you're extroverted, it's intimidating the kids. So that could be it.
That certainly could be it. And then I think also learning how to. Because I always like humor. I like making people laugh. And I was already learning that, but I wasn't very funny. I didn't like my comedic timing was bad. I was trying to force jokes to be funny so that everybody'd laugh and I'd get the attention. But then I'd say something and they'd all look at me like, you're an idiot, dude. Like, go get out of here. Like, why are you, what are you even doing in our group? Like, who invited this guy? Like, that was kind of, and my freshman year of high school was real similar. But then right after that, it all changed. Everything changed my freshman year with one event. And I threw a party at my parents' house my freshman year, and I threw the biggest party that everybody's ever thrown.
That'll do it.
And at that moment, Merwin was one of the most popular kids in school. They're like, Merwin's party is awesome. We got to go to Merwin's party.
Tell me about the party.
It was, what year was this? This is 1989.
Shit, that's the year I was born.
It was 1989. It was the first, I called it immediately. I was like, this is the first annual Labor Day bash. Because on Labor Day weekend, my parents always went out of town by themselves.
That was going to be my question.
They would go out of town, and they usually go out of town pretty far. Like they go to California and stuff. And I'm in Houston, Texas, and they're 4 states over. Like,
did they know this party was going to go down?
No, at least not the first year. Maybe by the 4th year that it happened, they started to realize that there's a pattern forming. So they go out of town to California. They're hanging out in Palm Springs or whatever for like 4 days. And so I decided that, cool, we're throwing a party. So I'm sitting in, I don't know what class I was in, a history class or something. And I create the flyer and I give it to a friend who was like, he worked in one of the clubs, right? Little clubs that they have in school that allow you to do other things. I don't remember which one he was in, but he had access to the copy machine.
Gotcha.
And so he's like, give it to me. I'll copy a bunch of the flyers. And then we just started handing out flyers. Next thing I know, there was probably 200 children, basically 200 teenagers at my parents' house.
Oh my God.
Having a big ass party. And it was a party. Like we threw down, like if you could think house party, like this was the house party. My older brother was there. My brother's 7 years older than me. So I gave him the money. That was some of the money my parents left me to take care of myself. I'm like, cool, we're throwing a party with that.
Take care of everyone.
So I gave it to him and I'm like, go get me 1 keg of beer and some ice and everything. And so he went and rented the keg, gets it all filled up, brings it back. Of course, we floated that keg in probably 45 minutes because it was like 200 kids there. Like we wrecked the place. I was at least smart enough to understand that my parents had certain items in their home that I knew could easily be broken or irreplaceable. So let's make sure we kind of move some of that. So I did some strategizing, and then still the house got wrecked and one of my mom's antique lamps got broken.
Oh man.
And I'll never forget laying in my bed after I'd cleaned the whole house and got everything done. And I'm talking party went crazy. Cops showed up, like everything that you could think of could happen happened. Fight in the house, a bunch of teenagers getting stupid and drunk. But my parents come home that night and I'm laying in my bed and I hear them come in and I kind of hear my mom kind of peek in my room and check on me. And I'm like, hey, I need to talk to you. And she's like, yeah, what's up? She sits on my bed and I'm like, I'm really sorry. She's like, but I had some friends over. I didn't say I threw a big party. I said I had some friends over. A couple of them got in a scuffle and they knocked over the table that your mom's antique porcelain lamp was on and it broke the lamp. And she was mad, but she was also super cool because I told her about it. And I was very upfront. And I told her exactly what I did. And she's like, well, I could tell that you had people over at the house because the house is cleaner than it was when I left. Number one. She's like, but I appreciate you telling me. So it sucks. That was a very important lamp to me. But stuff happens. That was it. And nothing ever else came out about it.
Good. Well, that's a huge shift point. Like, do you feel like that had like any effect on like who you became today? Did that give you more confidence?
Maybe. To some extent, maybe. Because the one thing that was funny, and you'll remember this because you went to high school, but every high school, there's cliques, right? Of all different cliques.
So just to give you a little bit of context on my school, my high school, even though I went to school in New York City, my high school only had like 300 people in it.
Okay.
So very small.
We had about 900 in mine.
I was going to say you had more people at your party than I had in my school.
Yeah. We had about 900 people at least at our school. It was a big 5A high school. But there's cliques. There's little groups that segregate, right? Based on their similarities, right? Birds of a feather flock together, right? So all the football players are over there, right? All the rich, popular kids are over here. Right. All the guys that love country western music and wear cowboy hats and boots are over here. All your skaters that are skateboarding and got their hair.
Yep.
They do that all the time and whip their hair over. They're all over here. You got your new wave emo goth crowd over there, right? Jocks, etc. Stoners, right? The guys that sit behind and smoke weed in class, like it's all these different groups. I never considered myself a part of any group, but I got along with all the groups for the most part. It's like there were individual people that I didn't get along with, right? And most of them existed in like the varsity football team because they were a bunch of douchebags for the most part, pardon my language. But right, you know who those guys are. Yep. And they definitely didn't like me because I didn't have a varsity jacket. I'm just some geek. You know, who am I that throws the cool party? Which was fun because the third year we threw that party, we threw a toga, and all those guys' girlfriends were at the party in their toga outfits, and all those guys showed up to the party not wearing togas. And I told them very explicitly, this is a toga party. You do not get in the party without a toga. And they just showed up wearing their polos and their rolled up jeans and trying to look cool. And they're like, hey, Merwin. And they're, no, we're cool. And I'm like, no, you guys aren't cool. Number one, y'all are all douchebags to me. You always have been. It's like, and number two, like, you're not, I told you it's a toga party. They're like, yeah, but you know, we don't, do we really have to wear a toga? I'm like, everybody here is wearing a toga. It's like, yeah, so if you want to come hang out at the party, I don't care, but you got to put a toga on. They're like, come on, man, it's us. And I'm like, yeah, it's y'all. Even more reason why I'm not interested in letting y'all in. And they're like, but all of our girlfriends are already here. And I'm like, exactly. I have all of your girlfriends in my party, and y'all can get lost unless you come back with togas on.
Yeah, figure it out. You're lucky I'm letting you in.
Right. Toga. And eventually they did, and they paid their $3 and they got into the show.
So what's that movie of like that crazy ass party?
House Party?
No. Where they just fuck up the house. There's
Super Bad?
Is it Super?
There's a house party scene in Superbad.
No, it's not. It's not Superbad. It's the one.
Weird Science.
No, shit,
that's another great house party movie.
It's gonna bother me if I don't come up with this movie about crazy house party.
Oh, you're gonna get a ridiculous list that's gonna take you forever.
It's gonna pull up immediately if these damn Google
images. Is it a newer movie?
I mean, 10, 15 years maybe. Within the last 10 years, 15 years tops. Project X. There we go. First one that pops up.
I haven't. I have to write that one down.
Office
Party's pretty good, or Office Christmas Party, or whatever it's called. That's a good one.
Project X. Project X is a great movie. It's about like kind of the same thing. Like it's three kids who just wanted to be popular. They throw this crazy house party when the parents are gone, and next thing you know, it becomes the biggest party ever. And they have like a car in the pool, people jumping off the roof, like midgets flying and fighting, and it's just a wild ass party. It's a great movie.
Yeah, we weren't that outlandish. The worst that ever got broken was that antique lamp. Other than that, my dad's yard got driven through a little bit one year, which pissed him off because he was hyper strict on his landscaping. Like, he worked his ass off detailing his yard and making sure it's just, I mean, every blade is the exact same height. Like, everything's perfect. And then one of my buddies was tired of dealing with the parking problem at my house that day. And so he just backed out, turns around and drives through the yard and gets out.
Oh my
and
God.
Two big ruts. So that was I got in trouble for that one.
Yeah.
My dad was pissed because it took a while for those ruts to regrow and fill in.
Damn, almost getting away with it, and then someone just being impatient with parking.
Yeah.
But
that was the same year that I got busted for the party too.
But no, I it was funny because I was thinking about Project X, because in Project X they had like these little like, so it was high school kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
But their security guards were like elementary or middle school kids. They were just super tiny, but it was hilarious. They had walkie-talkies. They were doing like reconnaissance. It was hilarious. So I was just thinking, like, if you had anyone at the door, like security guards.
Oh, absolutely.
Just reminded me of
absolutely 100%, dude. The front door was locked. So we had 3 doors at my parents' house that I grew up in. We had a very front door that we almost never used. And then the door that we used most common was the side door, where the car pulls up, right? It's underneath the carport next to the garage. And then you just walk out and you go in this side door. And then you obviously have the back door. But we almost never used the front door. So that area was the light was dim and it was locked off. And then everybody was hanging out by the front door, the side door, all my team. And they were blocking off the entrance to the back door where the deck and the whole party was at. Party's all in the backyard and on the deck.
Yeah.
So I had all my favorite buddies that I ran with, that really fit into my group. Yeah, and they're all running security at the front. They're just sitting in lawn chairs, hanging out. One of them had a white T-shirt and took a magic marker and wrote security.
Oh my God.
Yeah, his dad was actually security for one of the local colleges. So he had a mag flashlight that he had with him and everything. And
He was
they chewed it all up. They had fun with it, especially when the guys that we didn't like would come through.
Yeah.
You know, they would be like, "No, it's $10 for you, bro. It's not $3." It's like, you just charge him $3. It's like, yeah, but it's $10 for you.
Yeah.
So yeah, we had all that running, and we had a lot of fun. Like, it was professional. So on all the money that I would collect, I would spend it on pizza for all the people that would stay late and help me clean up.
That's awesome. Yeah, you had that figured out. That's here's another thing people don't know about me. When I was in college, freshman year of college, senior year of high school, me and my best friend, Gilberto, we used to throw 21 and over parties at a nightclub in Queens, New York. Vibe was our main one that we did every Saturday. It was 21 and over club. We were 17 and 18 throwing 21 and over parties. We did that for like almost a whole year. It was crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, all right. So we get through high school. Did you go to college?
I did go to college. I went to 3 different colleges before I finally dropped out.
Okay.
I'm pretty close. I'm not far off from my bachelor's. Like, I maybe need 30 hours maybe to finish my degree if I ever wanted to, but there's no need at this point. But yeah, no, I started at University of Houston.
Okay.
Immediately right after high school. And I wasn't going to, like, I was going to chill and just have some fun and do something. Like, right. It was like the last thing I wanted to think about was school, because I hated high school. I hated it. Other than the friends that I developed and having fun, that was a fun part of high school. But as far as the work, no.
Yeah.
Hated it absolutely. So I was not looking forward to just going back to school. But my brother talked me into it. And he was like, dude, he's like, if you wait and you go screw off for the summer and you take a year off to go find yourself or whatever, he's like, you'll never go to college.
Yeah, it's never going to
He's
happen.
like, you won't come back. He's like, and I'm telling you right now, this is your shot. If you want to go to college, he's like, you're the last kid. You're getting to that level where dad has the most money he's ever had because he's maturing in his career. He doesn't have the older 2 siblings, sucking money from him anymore as bad. He's like, so you have a great opportunity here. You need to take advantage of it. And I'm like, all right. So he talked me into it. So I went and signed up for U of H, started going to University of Houston for a communications degree. Spent a year there, ended up dropping out, mostly just grades, and I was irresponsible student. I was really into fraternity parties and having fun. I wasn't in a fraternity, but I'd met a couple of guys that were, and they'd bring me to the dime beer night parties and stuff like that.
Honorary.
Yeah, so same thing. Like, I carried the exact same thing. Like, oh, cool, I'm into the party scene. Let's go have fun. So that's pretty much all I did. So while I got decent grades my first semester, my second semester, I'm pretty sure they were all W's for withdrawn.
That's so shocking to me, man, because I thought you honestly, like, my preconceived notion about you was that you'd probably be like a very, very high GPA. Like, I thought you would have been like masters, maybe even.
Now, after that, when I went back to college and actually started studying, yes, I did. I had a very good GPA. Not quite perfect, but I would say 3.79 or something like that, 3.89. It was strong.
Anything over a 2
I didn't mess around. The only class that in college that I ever made a C in was, I think it was college algebra 2, if I remember correctly. Like, the next level, if I'd have gotten past that, would have been calculus. College trig I did good in, but the second level of college algebra wrecked me. It was so hard. And I got a C in that class. I was not happy about it. But that was the last level of algebra that I needed for the degree plan that I was going for. I didn't have to do calculus, but I had to do algebra 2 for an engineer. I was going for audio engineering. It was started at communications at U of H, gravitated into radio RTF, radio television film, because that was where the party scene was at, which ended up in me being withdrawn and dropped out of U of H, University of Houston. And then, so at that point, because my dad was nice enough to pay for college for me, and he made a deal with me in the very beginning. He's like, you have to maintain a B average or I'm not paying for any school. I'm like, fair enough. That's a good deal.
Yeah.
Then so when I withdrew from U of H, like, he was like, you're done. I'm not paying for any more school, period. Then I'm like, okay, so that means that either A, I don't go back to school and I just go get a job in the real world, like my brother and older sister both did, or I go to Harvard on the highway for $173 a semester, which was San Jacinto Junior College, which is exactly what I did. So I signed up for San Jac as a resident, and you get a super great deal. It's a little shitty community college, and I started getting my basics out of the way. And that was when it went from radio, television, film into audio engineering. So I wanted to do audio for film, like all the sound effects and what they call Foley art, right? All the sound effects and overdubbing of voices, all of that stuff. I wanted to get in and do that. And that was what I originally went to school for. And man, I stayed at that. I went to San Jac for 1 year, 2 semesters, maybe 3 semesters. Yeah, it was 3 semesters. Because in my second semester, I was in a speech class with a girl that I was dating. And we're in this speech class, and the teacher tells, you'll understand where I'm going with this in a minute, but I remember the teacher tells us to do a persuasive speech. He's like, everybody's got to write a persuasive speech, and we're going to start whatever day in the future. Like, it was the big assignment coming up.
And you crushed it. I know you crushed it.
So her and I live together, and we're dating, whatever. And we're talking about what we want to talk about. And I was like, well, and during this time in America, censorship was a really hot item on music, right? So they had that was the new parental explicit lyric stickers were coming out in the 90s. Like that was a big issue, right? And I was against that, being a guy that was big into music, and I was going to school for audio engineering. I'm like, I want to talk about that. I want to talk about why censorship on music is garbage and they shouldn't be censoring music. And she was like, you know what? I agree with you, but I also see the other side of their argument. She's like, so how about we came up with the idea is like, you do the pro-censorship argument and I'll do the anti-censorship argument. And that way it'll help both of our grades and we can work together on our project so that we can both do a really good speech. We were like, great idea. And we went to the effect of, we found out when we were going, when on the rotation, and I was on day 1. And she was like close to the last day. And I said, wouldn't it be cool if we went back to back? Like you got up and did the pro, and then I came up and did the anti one, and just blow everybody away. And she was like, that sounds like an even better idea. I was like, so we're going to find someone that's going on day 1 that would want to trade. Probably wouldn't be too hard to find a college kid that's like, I don't want to do day 1. Like, put me in the back of the pack. So we found a girl who's like, yeah, no problem. I'd love to go last. So we flipped my girlfriend Laura to going first right next to me. And we cleared a couple things with the teacher. We didn't tell him what we were doing, but we asked him a couple of quick questions. Like one of the questions was, hey, we are required to use some foul language in our speech, not because we just want us to use foul language, but because it's driving a specific point. And he says, like, as long as it's in context due to your speech, no problem. I'm like, all right, cool. He's like, but I'm watching y'all now. I'm like, yeah, we get it. And so she got up, and she was the one that had to use foul language, right? She had to use the F word. And the first thing she says in her speech, because she's doing the pro-censorship argument, she opens the argument with lyrics to the 9 Inch Nails song Closer. Okay. Which, if you don't know it, the first lyric is, I want to fuck you like an animal. And then it continues to go from there. And of course, as soon as she says it, like the whole class like has eyes on her, like, holy crap, what's going on?
It's a great speech. That's how you get attention.
She nails it. She gives a great speech on pro-censorship, because she's like, my 13-year-old younger brother is in here buying this record, right? And why should he be subject to hearing that kind of music, et cetera, those lyrics. And then I got up and I gave a very powerful attack speech on anti-censorship. Hitting the podium, I was yelling like it was. And as soon as I open my mouth to start talking, I see the teacher realizes what just happened. Yeah. That he has 2 people that are doing a debate, sort of, right?
That's
now,
great.
What I didn't know is he's also the debate coach of the college.
Oh shit!
He immediately recruits both of us to come work on the debate team. He's like, hey, how would you guys like to be on the debate team? We're like, never really thought about it. He's like, I'll give you a full ride. Like, totally, sign us up.
Done.
So we both signed up, and then we break up about a month or so later. So needless to say, we didn't want to be on the debate team together anymore.
Yeah.
So she split and I stuck it out. But all I ever really got to do was write casework for the people that were the debaters. Right. So I was learning. And then I ended up moving to Austin. But that was the first time that I really learned and saw, I have a knack with words and emotion, or embedding them with emotion and getting attention. Like as soon as I saw him and he looked up and he just glued on me, and the whole class was. And that was the first time that I realized, like, okay, I have a talent here.
There's something there.
That I really recognize it. Looking back, I find other moments in my life where I realized I was well-spoken and had the ability to get attention from people and get all ears on me. And that was, again, in high school because we had a class in high school called homeroom.
Yep.
Homeroom was basically just 10 minutes to listen to announcements and kind of do whatever. Like it wasn't a real class.
Yeah, first class of the day.
Yeah. Ours was actually the third class. It was kind of weird. So for 10 minutes, you go to first period, second period, then you go sit in homeroom for like 15 minutes, and then you'd carry on with the rest of the day. It was kind of strange. And we had a cool teacher in homeroom, so she let us do whatever the hell we wanted to do, as long as during any announcements that were coming over the speaker, we shut up and listened to them. And if we could behave during those few minutes, then the rest of the time we're in homeroom, get up, move around, talk, whatever you want to do.
Do whatever you want.
So I tended, and homeroom is the same teacher, same kids for all 4 years.
Oh, wow.
It doesn't change other than new kids moving and whatever. But if you're there all 4 years, I'm going to grow up with you in homeroom. So around the third year in homeroom, everybody started to realize that Merwin has all the jokes. And so Mike Baez and another guy, Ryan Weatherly, they'd be like, hey, man, as soon as announcements are over, like, come tell us jokes. And then before I knew it, half the class would be standing around me just listening to me tell stories and jokes. And I remember that, but it didn't trigger to me that was a talent. I just thought it was fun. I was too dumb to realize that there was something really there. And it wasn't until college when that moment happened with that teacher that I was like, holy crap, this is something that I'm good at.
That's awesome. We're catching a lot of like key moments here, and like the development of Tony Merwin, the personality. What made you drop out of college? And I feel like it
was a few things actually. It was numerous. One, I got into a point in my degree plan that if I wanted to go to one of two schools that I really wanted to go to, that I had on my target list, which was Middle Tennessee State University right outside of Nashville, one of the top music schools ever, especially for audio engineers. The other one is actually what used to be Southwest Texas State. I can't remember what it's called now. I forget. They changed the name at some point. But that is also a very highly accredited music and audio engineering school. So I'm like, all right, I wanted to go to Middle Tennessee State. And if I can't get in there, I'll go to Southwest Texas, second best school for audio engineering. No problem. And I got right to that point where I was ready to start looking at transferring my credits and applying and trying to get approved. And then I found that both of those schools, even if you just wanted to be an audio engineer, which isn't the guy playing the instrument, that's the guy recording the instrument, you have to give a recital. And I don't play any instruments. I've never played an instrument in my entire life. I have a pretty good ear for music, especially from the sonically engineering type standpoint. But both of those schools, even as part of the application process, you have to perform a recital in front of a panel of judges and be approved to get into that school.
Would that count in like you maybe even making your own music, and just even if it's not live?
At the time, I didn't think about that. And drum machines were definitely around back then, and keyboards. So, I mean, maybe I could have come up with something like that and tried to pass it off. But I don't know.
Yeah, you just kind of shut it down.
So that was an issue. So that says, okay, I can't go to one of those two schools. So now I have to start looking for alternative plans. The other thing that I needed to do was start interning. I had to start doing intern hours at either an audio engineering studio or a radio broadcast station, radio station, whatever. I had to try to get an internship. which is not easy to get either, even though it's free. It's like, you're just a lackey. I'm just going to go get you coffee and lunch. I understand, but it's hard to get because there's already people filling those spots, and they don't need 3 guys pushing brooms around this radio station.
Yeah.
So I was struggling to find an internship, number one, to help advance my degree. I couldn't get into the 2 top schools that I wanted. And then third, I found out I have tinnitus.
Okay.
Which is not a great thing for an audio engineer to have, because that's So I developed tinnitus, and then at the same time I was working at Sears selling appliances.
Shout out to Sears.
Well, now they're out of business, but
now back then, I got a Sears by me that's still.
Oh, do you still? Okay, all of them here are shut down and gone.
Yeah, no, 99,
including the one I used to work at. But I was working about 32 hours a week while I was going to school, about 14 to 16 hours a week, or 16 credit hours. And I was making about $55,000 a year selling washers and dryers at Sears as a part-time college kid.
Hell yeah. That's great money.
That was circa 1996, 95, 96, right in there. So I was killing it from my perspective.
I mean,
and then so I found out, okay, I have tinnitus. I'm not a musician that can perform a recital, so I'm not getting to those schools. And I'll be damned if I can find an internship. Not to mention, I have to work to pay my tuition so that I can go to school. Dad wasn't no longer, this was beyond all those years, or those couple of years. Like, he finally was like, no, you're on your own if you're doing this school thing anymore. You need to go, because it's just interesting fella. But anyway, so I was having to do it on my own. So I had to work so that I could cover bills, number one, and rent and school. So like, where do I even fit the internship in time-wise? And not to mention that it's free, so I can't let it replace what I'm doing at Sears, because that's what puts money on the table. And then in my brain, I'm like, but then why should I do that shit? Because I'm already making 50, 60 grand a year, and I'm hardly even working.
Yeah.
So maybe I can parlay this into something bigger, because I'm obviously good at talking to people and doing sales. And then next thing you know, my rest of my career takes off in a sales direction for the rest of my life.
So I've got a question now that we can look back onto that. Where do you think your career would be if you grew up in this era where the audio engineering, you could get that shit done probably online? You could probably self-teach yourself how to do that off of YouTube and just turn it into a business. Do you think that's probably the route you would have taken if you had
if I had grown up in this era? So if I'm a young kid with a ton of tech savvy and love for music, yeah, I'd probably be making MIDI beats and electronic beats or something like that, doing remixes and whatever, or have actually, and maybe taken the route to get into audio school, a real audio school. And who knows, I might be sitting in an engineering room right now working on the next Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
Because that was my whole thought process. Like, that was my thing.
Yeah. And the only reason I ask that is because, like, and this is kind of just to tie back to like a lot of people that I talk to, it's just like, you see so many people who talk like that obviously aren't in the entrepreneur space. Like, I'm talking more like personal friends and people that I know that aren't in the industry and don't own businesses. And it's like, they're always talking about like their hopes and dreams and things they want to do and this and that. And it's like, dude, you can learn all that shit on YouTube today.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, excuses, like, people, they're so comfortable finding excuses of why they can't do shit instead of just doing the work. So yeah, I'm just curious where, if you thought with where you are now, looking back on it in hindsight, if you were in this era, would you have continued to pursue that? Because obviously that dream ended, right? And you've moved on to sales. And
I've never looked at it from that perspective to say, would I still be in sales had I grown up 30 years later or something like that? Never really looked at it like that. I've thought about it if I had grown up earlier, like if I'd grown up in the 40s and 50s, what would I be doing? And I'm like, I'd definitely be in music in some capacity. I can almost guarantee you. If not maybe sports, but probably music. Yeah. And I would have probably been the guy hanging out. I would have been the one white dude hanging out in Harlem at jazz clubs that everybody was cool with being there.
Yeah, that would have been hilarious if you would have grew up in the 30s and 40s playing baseball or something.
100%, dude. I could have definitely been me.
You'd have one of those funky nicknames like fucking
Shoeless Joe or whatever.
Yeah, fucking.
They'd call me Earless Merwin because of his tinnitus.
Earless Merwin. Yeah, you wouldn't even have a first name. First name Earless.
Earless, yeah. Just throw it over there to Earless. Make sure he sees it because he won't hear it coming.
Yeah. It's hilarious. So, all right. So now we're past college. You've gone into Sears part time. You're doing all that. Like, when did you start getting into insurance? Like, how did that come
I
about?
was still a long time later. Well, not a long time, I guess. That was because I left Sears in 96 and went, or 97, early 97. And I went to work with, is that right? Yeah. And I went to work with Grant and Marketing and DS Max right at that time. Maybe a little later. Actually, I think I left Sears in 97 and then went to DS Max and Grant right at 98. Insurance didn't come around until 2004.
How did
So
that even happen? Everyone always has
I
some.
got recruited into it. Somebody that I trusted in my warm market.
Do you like hold him in contempt now?
I totally unfriended that bitch.
Can't.
No, she's one of my best friends. I trust her and I give her credit. Like several times, like I've been on shows like this and I have said like, hey, Tiffany Lecca, if you happen to be listening to this, thank you. Because if it wasn't for her believing that this was the right opportunity for me and introducing me to her upline, right? I'd never be here. I wouldn't be sitting here today. I don't know what I'd be doing. I'd probably be fine. Like I figured I would probably be successful, but maybe not. I don't know.
And
I could be a restaurant general manager somewhere because I spent a lot of time in the restaurant industry too.
So all right. So now this is kind of bringing up more questions for me. So like usually there's some point where people realize like I need to take that step into entrepreneurship. I need to take control of my own life and finances. And most people do it because they think they're in control of their own schedule and they realize very quickly that's not what fucking happens, at least at the beginning. So was that like was insurance kind of the first job that you've taken on that was like straight commission?
No, not at all. Sears was commission over draw.
Okay.
So it was straight commission unless you failed to meet a certain threshold, which wasn't, especially back then, it wasn't hard to meet. I think it was $6.50 an hour because that's basically, I think that's what minimum wage was around that time, right? So if you couldn't meet $6.50 an hour in commissions earned, they would supplement it with whatever they needed to extra. And then they would just deduct it from you next week or next pay period if you did make enough. If you never got over that threshold, they just fire you eventually. So the goal was that you always had to make more money than $6.50 an hour in commissions. So it was theoretically a commission-only job, right? It was just if I ever fell short, they would supplement it to get me back to that number, but I always had to pay that back next time.
Yeah. So when did you open your first business? How did you get into that?
That was with Grant and Marketing. So from Sears, I went to work with the company, a franchised location of DS Max, which is direct sales to the Max, and Granton Marketing. I don't think DS Max is an affiliate or even around anymore. Granton is still around, but I think they've been sold and changed hands a few times. That was when I got into sports promotions and stuff. So I started working with them. We were doing direct sales packages of anything from a sports ticket package to a golf prepaid package or membership package. We even got into car washes and other type of service industry stuff where you could basically just buy a prepaid package of car washes for really cheap, and then it would just give you discounts to they're trying to win customer loyalty. Check out our new place. So it was a form of advertising, and we would just go door to door, knock on their door, and be like, "Hey, do you like to play baseball, or do you like baseball?" And they're like, "Yeah, I love baseball." I was like, "Cool. Have you been to an Angels game?" "No." "Check it out. $20 for this package. You're going to get 50 buy one get one free Angels tickets." It's $20. You get your first 2 tickets for free right up front, right here. They're $11 tickets, so you're actually getting a $22 value for $20. After that, you're going to get buy one get one free tickets to go to the game. Take your kids. Now you can afford to go to the game.
No.
So we would go door to door and we'd sell those in low income neighborhoods, and that was what took me to California, was when they had the Angels campaign that came up, and I got to go co-manage that one.
And you owned that franchise?
Not for a while. Like I went through their training program, right? Start off, first you got to go learn how to bang on doors, give the pitch, prove that you can sell. Now that we know you can sell after a period of about 6 to 8 weeks, okay, now you can start helping us train new guys. and then they teach you the training process. And then after it's accelerated. And then once you can start training people and prove that, then you can start building a team. And then once you build a team that hits a certain threshold, then you become eligible to go open your own city. And so I started in Austin. I got to the management level inside Austin, but they sent me to Orange County, California, to train at the executive office to get ready for my own city. So we weren't really sure where they're going to send me. And I get some requests, but ultimately they're the ones that are going to, nope, you're going there. I need that one open. Okay. So while I'm going through all that training program there, they're setting up the corporation for me. Like they do everything for you. Like I don't have to do anything. So they set up the corporation for me. They're getting all that formed. And then they're like, hey, how does Sacramento sound? I'm like, Sacramento sounds great. I'm like, cool. Boom. So Sacramento was mine. I went and opened that franchise location. And I ran that for about 18 months before my corporate lister, the guy that gets the accounts for me to market, violated a no-compete clause. And we lost 2 of our biggest clients in the same week. And then we didn't have any product. We had shit product. My guys were struggling to make money on the crap product. We had a go-kart track was the last product we had because we were still waiting for some new stuff to come in. We had a deal with the Oakland A's coming, but it was still behind. We had a deal with River Cats, which was the farm team in Sacramento. They're running behind, right? We still got, it's not baseball season yet kind of thing. And then next thing you know, my office got shut down. It's like, well, because guys started leaving. They weren't making money. Nobody knew how to sell the go-kart track piece of crap product. We only had 3 months left on the promotion anyway, so it wasn't very good. So my team started falling apart. I probably wasn't as good a leader then by any means that maybe I am now. And then so they shut my city down and they said, hey, we got to shut down Sacramento. You and any of your team that wants to come back to LA and work in the executive office can. None of my guys wanted to go to LA with me. So I went back to LA by myself. Now I have 0 team members again. And the first thing they told me was like, cool, here's a new product we're test marketing. Go back out and rebuild your team. Wanted me to requalify so that I could go open another city. And which made sense. I mean, that's only fair, I guess. But I had had enough. I was like, you know what? And I got to a point where, because it's all a duplication exercise, right? I mean, it's multi-level marketing. So everybody's trying to learn to duplicate themselves. So the 2 guys that are ahead of me that are trying to train me to duplicate them, they're both dicks. And I did not like them at all.
No.
I tolerated them because they had a lot more money than me, and I had trust that they were going to try to help me get to that level. But when I started realizing, like, if they're going to train me to treat people the way they treat people,
it's not what I want.
I don't want any part of it.
Yeah.
And so in my brain, I'm like, this is a 3 years phenomenal experience. I got to travel the country. I got to prove that I know what I'm doing. This is going to be kick-ass on my resume.
Yeah.
And then so I put it on my resume and started shopping.
Let me just pause real quick because you said something that's very, very important for like anyone who's in business that's starting from the beginning and trying to build a business. Learning how to duplicate yourself is super fucking important.
Yeah.
Treat the people that you're trying to duplicate, like you got to treat them right. And that's super fucking important. People don't understand that, you know? It's like a lot of people on the business side have trouble letting go of things, whether it's a task or it's a system, whatever the case. Like you have to learn how to let go and teach people how to do things, even if it's not to the same level of skill that you have, right? They'll get there eventually, but you have to have trust in your team and teach them how to duplicate it. So I just, even though that's like kind of off with what we're talking about right now as a general topic, I still think it's kind of important because it was
absolutely
really good.
100%. But yeah, I didn't see myself in them at all or vice versa. Right. And so I was like, I'm not that interested to go rebuild my team for this opportunity. I don't see myself filling their shoes and acting that way. And so I was like, this looks good on a resume. Let's go back to Texas. And I didn't really like Southern California at all. And that was another part of it. Like I liked Sacramento area a lot. As a matter of fact, I did end up moving back to Sacramento first before I came back to Texas. But I left LA, moved back to Sacramento with a girl that I'd met while I was up there. And hung out with her for a bit, and then eventually came. And I shot my resume around. I ended up getting a gig running the quality control department of a call center that was developing home mortgage leads.
Okay.
I'd worked with them for maybe 9-10 months. And then I was like, yeah, nah, let's go back to Texas.
Yeah, call centers aren't.
So I took what little money I had saved and cruised back to Texas and kind of figured out what I wanted to do. And then I opened up my own golf promotions business with my brother and my dad. My dad kind of bankrolled some of it and got us some extra gear that we needed. My brother was supposed to handle design and development we were doing the same thing that I learned at Granton. We were just tailoring it to golf and improving the campaigns they had because we were all three golfers, so we loved the sport. So I'm like, okay, if we do this and this, it's better than what they were doing. So we came up with our own version of the same thing. And I said, I can build the team to go out and direct sell these. No problem. Right. One guy's in charge of artwork and development. I would get clients and go peddle the products. And Dad was just kind of bankrolling it. But me and my brother, unfortunately, don't get along very well. So that project did not last at all. And then shortly after that, Tiffany rang me. It was like, hey, what are you doing? And I was like,
did you come in on the health side or the life side?
Health side. Yeah. Okay. I got recruited by Family Heritage.
Okay.
Family Heritage, very reputable company. And they have a few different segments of business that they do, but I came into their supplemental health division selling their cancer treatment products.
Okay. And you've just kind of stuck with that since 2004, I think you said?
Yeah. And I've just been licensed since 2004. I have a health and life license. It's general lines, but yeah, I've always just been on the health side of things. I've sold some life insurance, but it's just not my main product.
Yeah. I was just curious because I know most people come in on the life side actually over
right. Was a lot heavier. There's a lot heavier recruiting arms in that space than is the health side, right?
Yeah.
Because it's easier for people to, I guess, in their mind to recruit in a masses of asses type atmosphere through the pie in the sky life insurance commissions. I can't get, it's hard to get people excited about making $300 a sale in health insurance.
You're such a fucking wordsmith, Tony. This is why I love you, because you just said that so much more beautifully than I could have ever crafted ever. Like at the end of the day, I fucking hate the whole concept of life insurance recruiting.
Right.
I mean, we all know what it is. It's a zero fucking barrier to entry. You just get a fucking license and you're in. You know, people do it because they want the entrepreneur title, but it's not really entrepreneurship until you're really building something meaningful. Right. And then they just get sold that pie in the sky of like, just recruit and they'll do all the sales and you'll make all the money. And it's like, you don't know how to fucking sell. So you can't teach people you're recruiting how to sell. And then they come on board. They don't know how to sell. They're being sold the same dream that you're selling them, that you were sold on. So now you have a whole fucking downline of people who don't know how to fucking sell that's not making money. And you just want to go blame everyone but yourself.
Right.
And it's like,
yeah.
You made that sound more beautiful than I could have ever put it. So
but you can't do that in the health insurance space. It doesn't work. You can't get people excited about a $300 annual commission.
Yeah.
You can in life insurance. You can say, look, a policy like this, I make $5,000. And they're like, oh crap. And while they're not lying,
it's not
right.
It's also not realistic.
It's not always realistic.
Yeah.
So health insurance is a much more difficult pitch in that recruiting concept.
Yeah.
That recruiting environment.
Yeah. But I mean, if you're getting it annually, that's way better than life insurance, which is way up front. Okay. So when did you go out and start your own agency on the health side?
I've worked on my own a couple of times in the health space. I first started with Family Heritage. I wasn't very good with them at all. I was terrible, as a matter of fact. I was maybe doing 2 apps a week at best, which was not, it's a low premium product. It's cancer treatment products. Like premiums are like $30. I'm on a 35% commission with a 6-month advance. Like I'm making no money practically selling 2 apps a week. Like guys that were doing well were writing 12 to 15 apps a week. I'm writing 2. I suck. And I didn't understand it very well. And I didn't have the training that I truthfully needed. I really wasn't attached to the right outfit for me. And part of that problem was that I was in Austin and I was recruited by a team that was in Houston. So in order for me to get any time with them, I have to drive 3 hours away, because this is back before the internet is what it is today. There's no Zoom. There's no StreamYard. I could just jump on a call with them. I barely even had a cell phone that I could call them with. So it was difficult because I was truthfully left out on my own. But my fault. I didn't know really what I was up against.
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know.
Right. So I was with them for about 14 months. Had a job building bar stools at night just so I could make ends meet.
Making bar stools?
Building bar stools, assembling them. I had a buddy that ran a custom bar stool company. So he's like, hey, you can come in at night, build these stools for me. I'll pay you, X amount of money. And so I did that just so I could pay the electric bill and eat some ramen while I was selling shitty insurance. It's terrible at it. And had it not been for a lucky by chance meeting with someone, I would have probably been out of insurance shortly after that moment.
So what was, do you mind talking about that moment?
Yeah, no problem at all. I've talked about it quite a bit, but no, one night I'm hanging out at a club with some of my friends, and there's another dude in the group that was an acquaintance of someone there. I've never seen him before. It was a group of about 8 of us, and about 4 of the guys I knew really well. A couple of them I knew through the group, and then there was this other dude I'd never seen before, and he stuck out like a sore thumb. Like, we're all wearing jeans and khakis and a t-shirt or polo. This dude's wearing a 3-piece suit. When we're at a nightclub on like a Thursday night, and like, what? It's like 9 o'clock at night. Like, why are you still wearing your super fly looking 3-piece suit? But he wasn't trying to floss hard. He just was very well dressed, right? It wasn't outlandish. It was still even kind of conservative, but it was just a really nice suit. You could tell. And so I'm just kind of looking at him, who is this guy and whatever. And then at one point during the night, him and I are kind of sitting next to each other, and we just start talking. I'm like, or he asked me, he's like, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I'm in insurance. And he looked at me, he's like, oh, he's like, I'm in insurance. What a coincidence. We're in the same business together. And I almost got offended by that because I looked at him. I'm like, we're not in the same business together, bro. It's like, you have what looks like a $5,000 Breitling watch on. You got that pimped ass suit. I saw the Beamer that you got out of in the parking lot. Like, I'm driving a shitty 1985 shitty Buick Skylark that's shit brown with the busted window. I was wearing these khakis yesterday, and I'm pretty sure that's a Casio watch. I was like, what do you mean we're in the same business? I was like, huh. I was like, what do you do in insurance? And he's like, I work in the Medicare side. He's like, I have the exclusive distribution for a company called United Teacher Associates. Start talking to him some more. And he's like, you should come by and check out the office. Because I told him what I was doing. He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, I have this book that's about this big. I take that book and I go bang on doors and I go, hey, who else wants to talk about the uplifting subject of cancer? And then I show him the book and then I ask him to give me money. And he's like, do you have any success with that? I'm like, maybe twice a week I have some success. And he's like, cool. He's like, you should come and check out my office and come hang out to see what I'll show you what we do. I'm like, all right. So he runs the exclusive agreement or marketing agreement for United Teacher Associates, which is an insurance company here in Austin that developed Medicare supplement and final expense life products. That was the only products they had, or at least that we were marketing. They had other products and other segments, but that was what he had the distribution on. So he's like, this is what we do. Here's how it works. And he actually was the first person that I ever met that told me everything there is to know on the contractual side of insurance. Things that Family Heritage never told me. Family Heritage said, here's your contract. It's 35% with a 6 months advance. All the commissions are paid to us, and we'll pay you based on your sales. I'm like, okay. I didn't know any better. I don't know anything. I'm just like, I knew that I was really good at door to door is what I knew. And I knew, I was like, they sold me the product. I'm like, this is a pretty kick-ass product. I can see people buying this. And I know that I'm Johnny Badass at door to door. So let's go. I'm going to kill this. And I didn't. I sucked because I didn't know how to talk insurance at all. I had no game on how to talk and close premium checks. I was closing $20 bills. This is a whole different ballgame. So I was really bad at it. But this dude actually told me how the contracting side of insurance works, the difference between broker contracts versus captive and career type contracts, this versus that, and then really explained the passive renewal structure that exists in health insurance. And it's like, every time you sell, you're going to get paid on that premium for life as long as the customer stays with you. And I'm like, what? And I'm not an idiot. I was really good at math. So I'm like, well, that means that it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger every year. Right. If I make 50,000 first year, I make 50 grand. But if I put in the same effort, then next year I should make 100. Mm-hmm. The next year I should make 150 or something. Right. It's going to grow every year. And I'm like, cool. Sign me up. What do I got to do? And so he taught me how to, first he taught me to understand Medicare supplements and the products and the contracts. And he had me working as his marketer, calling agents and pushing that product out. But at the same time, I was a licensed agent, so I was able to sell the product at the same time. So I learned how to sell Medicare supplements and final expense. And then I was recruiting agents for his team the whole time. And what I would learn from the agents, I would take out in the field with me and go write business in the evenings, weekends, whatever.
That's awesome.
Then a couple of years later, or about 18 months later, that company got bought out by Great American Financial. Big company, came in from Cincinnati, scooped it up, ran all of us off. And we all splintered, went our own directions. And I just went out as an independent agent and started writing MedSup and final expense. Did that for almost 4 years. And then, 2010, I went back into the wholesale space. And I did that for 13 years. And then at the end of 2022, I left again and started over one more time, the last time. And it wasn't really a full start because I'd managed to finally get myself in a space where I was getting real equity in an agency. So when I left Precision Senior Marketing at the end of 2022, I was able to escape with money that helps us technically run this business and have a fairly nice lifestyle.
So speaking of that, so you and Grace run Avila, right?
Mm-hmm.
How did you meet Grace?
We met on Match.com.
Yes, now we're getting to the good stuff.
I was thumbing through profiles one day. I had a little touchscreen. I was in my apartment, had a little touchscreen computer that I had mounted on the wall. It ran all my entertainment. So, right? See, I'm still an audiophile by nature. Yeah. So I had a pretty slicked out stereo, radio, Spotify, and I had it all run on this touchscreen laptop that was sitting, tablet, right? So anybody could walk in and they could pull up my jukebox and play music in my apartment or whatever. So I was scrolling through Match.com profiles one day. I saw hers. My wife's absolutely gorgeous, so I was immediately starstruck. And then the first thought that came to my mind was like, she'll never call me. And I scrolled right past it.
Oh, man.
And then I was like, you know what? Come on, man. It's like, just go back, send her the message. She's going to ignore you, but at least you can say that you tried. And then you can move on with your life and sleep good on your pillow tonight, knowing that you tried to get the hot girl on Match.com. It's her fault.
How long ago is this?
This was 9 years ago.
9 years ago? Okay.
Almost 10. It'll almost be 10 years. It'll be 10 years March 1st that we met. So we're coming up on our 10th year anniversary from the day we met. But
congrats.
But I was like, just at least send her the message. That way you can say you tried, and then it's her fault. It's not your fault. It's hers. Yeah. She doesn't know what she's missing. And so I did. And then I couldn't get her to stop calling me.
Nice. I thought that was important for me to bring up. One, because obviously I didn't know how you guys met. Not that it matters for me, but just like it's always interesting to learn how power couples, because I would consider you guys a power couple. The first time I ever met you guys, actually, I don't even know if I met you, but I do remember the first time I ever seen you in person.
With Digital Frontier, right?
No. It was at 8%.
Oh.
It was before that. And it was because you and Grace walked by me. And I'm like, these guys look fucking important. And I'll never forget you two walking by. And I'm like, damn, okay. Whoever he is, he pulled a very beautiful woman. Like, Grace, woman. So I'm like,
I definitely outkicked my coverage.
I was like, they're definitely important people too. Cause you guys had all eyes on, kind of like how Joe does when he goes places. Cause he's so fucking tall.
Right.
And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like, probably going to meet these guys at some point because I want to know who the hell they are.
Okay. And so, I never knew that.
That was very interesting. I saw you guys at 8% in I don't even remember where it was. This was probably
Dallas. That would have been Dallas, probably around 2018 or 19.
Yeah. So it was
2018. I bet.
I was like, wow. Okay. So that was the first time I ever actually saw you. I didn't meet you that day.
Right.
I remember it was very, very like
interesting.
Yeah. So awesome. That's cool, man. That's cool. And how's like, so one of the things and we spoke about this before we started recording is like, one of the things I like to know is like, is there a next step to the business? Right?
Oh, definitely.
Now you have Avila, you have your business. Some people just want to grow that business and like, that's their retirement plan. Some people are like, there's something else after this or outside of it. Obviously, you guys have syndicate media with Joe, but like, what are some of the plans, if you don't mind sharing, if you have any, or if you don't, like,
Yeah,
what?
no, there's definitely plans. And sometimes I feel like I get my hands or my mind in too many pies sometimes. So I'm kind of in that space right now. I was like, wait a second, maybe this is too many directions that I'm trying to take on at the same time, or avenues, income streams, if you will. And maybe I should narrow my focus a little bit better, which I have done some. But primarily, the number one goal is we want to build our brand to a level that if you're Hispanic or Spanish speaking, I should say, more importantly, and you think insurance, you think Avila. Like, we want that to be the first brand that comes to your brain when the topic of insurance comes up. Like, that's the brand that we want to build and how massive we want this to be. And we decided that from day one, pretty much day one when we got involved in this together. But there is a goal beyond that, and that is to start a nonprofit. And we're already looking in. Now we're at that space where we're starting to look into getting it formed and getting all the details done. But we're going to start a nonprofit called the Judith Grace Foundation, which is one, named after my wife, Grace, and two, it's named after her mom, Judith. So it'll be the Judith Grace Foundation, but it'll be designed to help underprivileged women and children, with a big emphasis on children that can't get the shoes they need, children that can't get the school supplies they need. So mostly international, right? We're looking at impoverished countries, Colombia, different things like that, where kids just don't have the opportunity, or families don't even have the opportunity to provide for their kids at a level that is sanitary and health and right, and just to give them the stuff they need. So since we don't have children, and we couldn't have children, or we never could get it done because we married late in life anyway, we decided, hey, if we can't have our own kids, we're just going to get rich and help all the kids. Why not?
That's incredible, man. That's incredible.
So that's next phase as far as her and my vision, right? Is to build this massive expat back to Colombia where her family is, and then run an international nonprofit called the Judith Grace Foundation.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Can't wait till you get that running, man. Let me know.
Me either. Yeah, we're on track for it.
Be the first one to donate. Make sure you send it to me first. I mean, I'm kind of not along the same lines. Like, I don't really have a goal of opening a nonprofit, but like every year I try to like at least fund one classroom a year.
Yeah.
For like school supplies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, I just gave money to, was it Sandra Gephardt's thing? The kids needed wrestling mats or whatever it was. I'm like, hell yeah, man, get those kids especially get them wrestling mats, because they need to get that shit done before they bring that energy home anyway.
Yep.
So yeah, get them wrestling mats, let them burn it all out, and then they can go home to their parents and be chill.
Yeah, and shout out to Sandra and Gage.
Yeah, definitely, man. Absolutely.
Cool. So I've got one more. I know we've been running for over an hour now.
Yeah, no worries.
I've got one more question that I have to fucking ask you before we get off. I can't let this episode end without asking you. How the fuck did you get into martial arts? How far are you into it? And I know you're going back into it.
Yeah, that's an interesting story too, I guess. Because I was never looking into martial arts. Like, I had zero desire to start learning how to fight or martial arts, competing in it. That was never on my radar, ever. I liked Bruce Lee movies as a kid. I used to watch all the Bruce Lee movies. I watched all the crazy kung fu movies with the bad video dubbing or audio dubbing. Like that, I'd lived in that world as a kid, but I had no desire to think that I was going to go study martial arts.
Yeah.
My parents never put me in that. It would have probably been a good idea for me as a kid. I think it could have given me a little more discipline and focus a lot of times, but it was never on my radar. When I was about 35, I was out of shape, physically, spiritually, mentally. I had just had a really bad divorce that got nasty. I mean, I'm talking two people that loved each other at one point are now calling each other nasty names and lying and spreading hate. Like, it was just gross, ugly. That was really hard on me. And I got super out of shape physically, mentally, and spiritually. I beefed up to about 242 pounds, which at 5'11" is a pretty big dude. And I've always kind of been a little bit overweight, but that was the worst I've ever gotten. Was drinking really bad, smoking, drugging. I was doing pretty much anything you could think of. I was pretty much treating my body like an amusement park. And I was struggling, and it really started to spill over on me mentally and emotionally. And I was talking about some of that with a couple of my friends. One was a golf pro, and he mentioned, he's like, dude, he's like, you should check out Tai Chi. And I'm like, why? He's like, I'm doing Tai Chi to help me be a better golfer because it gives me the focus. He's like, and it has really good exercises that build up my flexibility to help me even be a better golfer. He's like, so if you're looking for an exercise that you can kind of help you get into shape, and then two, something that will help you with more focus. He's like, Tai Chi is great. It's like yoga, but it's not yoga. He's like, it's a different version of yoga. He's like, there's a little more movement in it and stuff going on. I'm like, okay. And so I kind of thought about it. And then I started doing some research online for Tai Chi and Tai Chi schools. And I found a good school here in Austin. Signed up for an introductory class to go check it out. You get 2 free introductory classes. They give you 2 hours each or 1 hour each to come try it. You get a free pair of shoes, which is basically what it was. You buy a pair of shoes, I'll give you 2 free classes. So I bought the shoes, showed up, really liked it. Like I wasn't sure what the hell it was. Like I didn't know what it was. Like I didn't get it. I still didn't understand really what Tai Chi was, but I knew there was something there that I was really interested in uncovering. I couldn't tell you what it was at the time, but I was like, I definitely want to go back. There's more to whatever that dude was showing me that I haven't figured out yet, but it looks like a really deep rabbit hole that I could dive into. And I was like, and it'll give me the exercise I need. It'll help me get the mental fortitude that I was looking for at that time because I was super just anxious and disorganized and still reeling from that divorce. And so I started going to that class. And what I didn't know, especially at the time, was that Tai Chi is a form of Kung Fu. I just thought it was what old people did in the park for exercise. But it's not. It's actually, and it all depends on how you train it. If you train it like a martial art, it becomes a martial art. If you just do exercise with it, then that's all it will ever be to you. So, and I had no desire for the martial arts side of it. When I found out that it was really a martial art and it wasn't just what old people do in the park for exercise, I was like, interesting. But I never went to Friday class. And Friday class was the class that you actually get to start grabbing people and throwing them around. I was like, I'm not interested in that. I just go up there, get my exercise, learn some Tai Chi, stretch, feel better mentally, burn some energy. I started losing weight. Was good. And one of my classmates kept going, dude, you got to come Friday. You got to come check out Friday class. I'm like, It's like, I'm not interested in getting beat up. And she's like, no. She's like, this is where you get to come test what you're learning to see if it actually works. I'm like, all right, fine. And actually, no, it wasn't even that. She kept hounding me. And then he did, during one of the regular classes, he did like a 15-minute introduction to what happens on Fridays. And I was like, okay, that's not really what I thought was going on Fridays, but that's kind of fun. Let me go check out a Friday class. And Friday is where you start to get to put hands on people and start moving them around and actually test your skills. And I was like, oh, this is a lot of fun, actually. And I realized that I'm actually starting to pick some of this stuff up pretty good. It's like, I'm like, all right. 8 years later, I had about 15 medals in forms and push hands competitions through Tai Chi. Had studied 3 different types of Kung Fu, which was Yang style Tai Chi, Chen style Tai Chi, and Hung Gar Kung Fu. Hung Gar is what you see in the old movies. Has the real big dramatic movements, that kind of stuff, right? That's Hung Gar Kung Fu that they did in all those bad voiceover movies. Did a year of training in that with it, and then got to a point where I was like, all right, this is cool. I'm good at it. I've got a bunch of medals, but I want to keep going. Like I know I can even go further with this, but I started to feel like I'd outgrown what my teacher was willing to teach us. Because he wasn't real big in the application stuff of actually how the martial art. He would let you just spar on this gentle sparring called push hands. He's like, you're going to practice the form, then you'll go ahead and work out your form with your push hands partners, and you'll figure it out. But I'm not going to, like, we didn't do like applications classes where we were really practicing how to defend yourself properly if someone attacked you and throw them on the ground and stomp on them or whatever you got to do. So I started doing some research a little bit more, and I decided that Wing Chun would be the next best discipline for me to start learning because it's also a Kung Fu art. A lot of people don't necessarily, not to get into a whole lesson on martial arts, but karate is Japanese, right? So a lot of people think karate is martial arts is karate. No, karate is a type of martial art from Japan, right? All kung fu is Chinese martial arts. And there's a ton of different Chinese martial arts. There's Yang style Tai Chi, Chin style Tai Chi. There's 7-star, praying mantis, animal style, leopard style, tiger style, monkey style, right? It's Hung Gar, all kinds of stuff. And then there's Wing Chun, which is what, if you've ever seen the Ip Man movies.
I have not.
Not familiar with Ip Man. Okay, Ip Man is a legendary grandmaster in the art of Wing Chun. He was Bruce Lee's teacher. And there's a whole series of exaggerated action hero movies about Ip Man. So I did some studying and I found out that there is a true lineage teacher from that Kung Fu lineage, right? I can connect him to the next guy, to the next guy, to the next guy that connects to Ip Man, which was Bruce Lee's teacher, right here in Austin.
That's fucking awesome.
So I'm like, all right, so it's still within the Kung Fu world. It's still a Chinese martial art. So there's going to be a lot of similarities to some of the things I've already learned. And there's going to be a lot of differences. And then so for another year, I spent training with him. And then I had a knee injury, not in class. It was an external thing from running that I screwed up my knee. And I wasn't able to train as much for a while. And I kind of slacked off. And I never renewed my membership with him. And then I got married and lifestyle changes were happening to me. And my career started to take off more and more. So my mind started to move more in different directions. And wasn't long before, boom, I went from 190 pounds back up to 210, as we were just talking about before we started this show. And I noticed that even though I'm still doing very well in life overall, like I was losing some certain aspects about myself that I had molded through training in martial arts and Kung Fu that I started to miss. I was like, where'd that guy go?
Yeah.
Where'd that go? Where'd that guy go with all the energy? Where'd that guy go with all the discipline? Where'd that guy go with all the focus? Where'd that guy go with the skill set,
Yeah.
to overcome bad knees or whatever?
I always recommend that people like find some sort of like sport or something that they can get active in outside of business, because like one thing I noticed about myself is like I didn't do a lot of cardio as a pitcher. I was a pitcher my whole life, but I always had the most endurance. But I always noticed like, and there's actually an interview of me after my freshman year of college, pitched in the championship game. We won the championship. I threw 9 innings, 156 pitches, which is unheard of for like any sort of like advanced college, like, college, professional, like you don't see people throwing that much. Usually a coach puts you out by like 100 pitches. And one of the questions is that they asked me when they were giving me the MVP of the championship game was like, how do you feel? And I'm like, I feel good and I feel great. Like, but like I'm in hindsight looking at that interview now, like I know mentally I was fucking drained. Physically, I could have went out there and threw 3 more innings. Right. And the physical activity of sport, it's mentally draining, but like any other exercise or physical activity, it's training you to be at a higher capacity mentally. And I think people need that in their lives, not just for the physical activity of becoming healthier and getting in better shape, which, we both spoke about that before. Like we're both losing weight. We were both overweight. And I've started getting back into sports. I pitched, the last weekend and I've started training again and I'm in the gym and we're both eating healthier. We're losing weight and that's great. But like also just getting back into the gym. Like I started working out every single day from January 1st till now. I've dropped 15 pounds.
Nice.
But it's not even the fact that I'm fitting into clothes. Like you said, this is the first time you've worn that shirt and it's, you've dropped pounds, you're able to fit into it. Same exact thing with me. I feel a lot better in the shirts I'm wearing. I'm filling it out more, but the actual energy that I have, the mental capacity of like the work before I sit through like a day of phone calls, I'm just fucking mentally drained. I am so drained. I get out. I'm like, I don't have time. I don't have the energy to want to go hang out and play with my kids. Like I still do it, but I don't have the energy to do it.
Yeah.
Not the way I should be doing it. And then 8:30, they go down for bed and it's like, I shower and I want to fucking pass the fuck out. And it's like 8:30 and I'm 34 years old. Like no 34-year-old should be sleeping at 8:30 because they're so.
No, probably not.
When I'm not I'm sitting at a fucking desk all day, you know?
Right. I'm
So
49. I hardly go to bed that early.
yeah, and now like I feel a lot more energy and I just feel a lot more
Good.
capability behind it because now I could get through the entire day and I get off. I'm like super energized. I'm ready to go. You know, I'm ready
Yeah.
to go play with the kids until they go to sleep. And then I'm up another 3 hours going to the gym, reading a book, playing some fucking video games because I can't go to sleep yet. So I recommend anyone who is not active, go find something. Shout out to Nick Ayers,
Absolutely.
doing like Brazilian Jiu Jitsu now. Like,
Yeah.
well, so it's definitely something I recommend. And I think, you know,
100%, dude. It's even for me in the martial arts side of things, like to be completely honest, the mental fitness benefit of it way outweighs the physical fitness and even the fighting benefit.
yep.
Like the fact that I know how to fight actually makes I don't want to fight. And a matter of fact, now that I know how to fight, I know that I'll never have to fight. Like it's a really weird counterintuitive thing. You would think, oh, people are going to martial arts because they're bullies and they just want to learn how to beat people up. That's not necessarily true. Most people that go to martial arts and really train it, they're learning how to handle their emotions so that they never have to fight. And if they ever get pushed that far where they're forced to defend themselves, then they can defend themselves very well.
Yes,
But the mental benefit that you get from knowing that you have that skill set inside you now, it's amazing what it does for confidence. Dude, I have almost no fear anymore. I would say none. Like there's a few elements in my life where I still have some fear, right? But overall, like I have zero fear to walk around and do and just be myself. And I don't care what you think of me. It doesn't matter to me. Like, cause I'm very confident with who I am in my own skin, way more now than I ever have been. And it's not because of my monetary position. It is 100% credit to the fact that I know that if push came to shove, I could probably beat your ass. And I don't mean that in a physical, violent thought, but I know that you can't take anything from me that I don't give to you. I'm fully confident in who I am and what I can do. And martial arts gave me that. It gave me the mental discipline to understand it. It gave me the mental discipline to have the focus to work a long day, right? And you also have to understand it from this aspect in the world, especially for us that work in an office environment, right? And you're a cow, you're a complacent office worker. Your body, your brain is not wired for that. Your body and your brain are wired to do the same things that we were doing 300 years ago, 500 years ago.
Yep.
When we were forced to stay in communities, because if anybody got out of the community, you probably got eaten by something, right? And so we had that fight or flight thing working in us, and it had a very specific mechanism and purpose. But now, in a comfortable modern society where fight or flight is rarely necessary, right? Truthfully, like you're not worried about a dinosaur eating. You're not worried about a giant cat coming around the corner and eating you. You're not worried necessarily, about that kind of danger, right? You might, if you're in New York City and you walk down the wrong alley, you might be worried about getting mugged or something, or you might worried about some other modern era frustrations.
Yeah,
right?
like if you're in a mall in Miami and an alien comes.
Right, something like that. But that's, in my opinion, that's why when we are hit with something that's challenging now, we lose our emotion so much quicker because all of a sudden we're in fight or flight mode. We're triggered that much faster because we haven't had an opportunity to blow off that steam running around hunting and gathering, defending ourselves or whatever. So a sport, gym time, working out, martial arts, anything that you can shed a bunch of energy, anxiety, right? All of that, burn those calories off, is going to help you calm down that fight or flight mode and keep it chill. So that when you are faced with adversity,
much more
you're
clarity.
going to be much more clarity. You're going to be a lot more calm. You're going to be able to approach it with a much more logical, sound mind because you're not sitting up here the whole time, just waiting for the first thing. Right? Like what happens in your car, and now you have road rage. Right? And that's especially true. I've heard Joe Rogan talk about this, and I totally agree with him. He's like, dude, the reason that people have road rage is because we're in this world where we're not truthfully exercising our fight or flight mechanism in the right way, right? And so we're wound the hell up. We're in a car that's doing 70 miles an hour down the highway, surrounded by other cars doing 7. This guy drives like shit. That guy drives great. It's near-death experience for all times. He's like, it's no wonder you're way up here. And then as soon as somebody cuts you off, you're like, motherfucker, I'm going to fucking kill you. Because we're just wound the fuck up.
Yep.
Because we're not releasing that anxiety and that adrenaline that our body tells us this is how you're designed. You're designed to work physically every day.
Yep.
Right? That's how our body was built and our brain was designed. It's like every day is supposed to be mental or physical work of something. But now we're thrust in this office environment where we're like, well, everything's fed to us. Right? I can Uber Eats the food. I don't have to go find it. It's right there on my app. Just food's here. Great. I can still sit here and I don't even have to get up. Right. So it's super important now. I believe that people need to burn energy through some type of fitness or work. And it doesn't, if you're not in, just go chop wood. It doesn't matter. Just something is hard physical work for a good period of 30 to 45 minutes, an hour every day.
You don't even need to do that much. Not that I'm saying you shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Like, dude, on days where like I just don't have the fucking motivation, I still go and do 15 minutes at a minimum.
Yeah, something. Like, just get on a treadmill for 15 minutes real hard. Go bang out 50 squats and 30 push-ups or whatever you can possibly do to the level of exhaustion. And as soon as you're done with that, the rest of your day is going to be cakewalk.
Absolutely. So awesome. Well, we're at an hour and a half, Tony. I want to be respectful of your time.
Yeah.
I fucking appreciate you so much for hopping on here.
This was fun, man. Thank you.
I'm glad you enjoyed it, man. I enjoyed having you. If you could leave everyone with one piece of advice, whatever the fuck you want, it doesn't have to be business, it could be whatever you want, what would it be?
I'll tell you exactly what I told a couple of the guys in the office today. Because our office, we have regular meetings and our culture is very much about personal development as much as it is about creating income for yourself and being successful. And a couple of the guys in here are working on some new things, trying to get to a certain space in their life. And I told them today is like, you already are the person that you're describing you want to be. You're just not behaving as such. So whatever the version of yourself is that you emulate, and you're like, man, if I could just be that. Well, you can. You're making a choice every day to not behave in that manner. So whatever you think the perfect version or the better version, because there's no such thing as perfection, whatever you think the best version of yourself is, and you're striving to be that, like, man, I got to do this before I can be that. No. Just go be that person. You have the power right now to be like, oh, no, I am that person. So just behave as such.
Yep.
You may not be physically like I want to be successful, physically fit, kung fu badass. Well, I already am that person. I just had to go get the behavior going again so that I can remind myself, oh, yeah, that's me. I am successful, fun, hilarious, kung fu badass. That's me.
That's Tony Merwin.
Just be who you want to be instead of thinking about, man, I got to go do this before I can be that. No, you already are that. Just act as such.
Yep. And stop. And you know what? I'm sorry. I know that I said we were going to end on that as last thing, but since you brought up Joe Rogan, I also want to bring up Joe Rogan because he said something exactly like that in one of his interviews where he said people hold on to who they were in the past and they use it as an excuse to continue acting that way in the future.
Yes.
Instead of just thinking about who they want to be and who they should be and just being that person now because the past is the fucking past and the present is the present. So just
correct.
In the present.
If you keep looking at yourself in the future as some future tense that is possibly unachievable, then you're never going to get there. You're like, well, I can't be that guy because I'm not fit yet. I'm not 170 pounds yet and strong. I don't have abs, so I can't be that person. Well, guess what? You ain't ever going to get abs if you don't start being the person that has abs.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Just go do it. Start being, just emulate that person that you imagine yourself being as the best version and just do it every day. Do what that person would do. What would that person do every day?
Fucking go work out.
Then go work out.
Some shitty ass
or whatever it is.
Workouts and go get those abs.
Yeah, whatever it is, whatever you imagine your best version of yourself doing on a daily basis, well, just start doing that.
That was awesome, Tony. I appreciate you, man. Again,
you got it, brother. It's always good to see you.
Good to see you too. For anyone catching this, it'll be on YouTube. We'll have it on Spotify on our podcast. And if you'd like to be a guest, go to the extrainningspodcast.com and go fill out the form. Tony, I appreciate you, man.
You got it, man.